Our host is nervous because she was recently in Cancun and was very surprised to have a number of people address her as if she was a married woman, which was a shock to her.
Oh, wait, actually, that's a bad example. I do have a ring on my finger on both, but they're not like diamonds, you know?
That might have been why.
That was such an experience for me because I think it's weird. Sometimes I still think like I'm a high school student and like society is treating me not like that anymore, which is good because responsibilities are important. But I'm not really interested in getting married, so it really caught me off guard, you know? Has that ever happened to you, by the way?
Probably, and I just like blocked it out.
It's like blackout, yeah. I feel that. Did that ever happen to you, Sandy?
On not wanting to get married or
Was it always like the pressure of like society being like you should get married now?
Back in my generation, yeah, there was more pressure that I think that particularly as you approach the end of college, so at the ripe old age of 22, 23 years old, it was like, well, aren't you going to get married or do something?
Really?
I know a lot of people that got married in their early 20s. I got married in my early 20s back in the day. And a number of them had, successful marriages that have lasted forever.
Yeah.
But it's very different now. Now it's there's just none of that. So, which is why iPhones and Samsung Galaxies are the root of all evil. It's just there's too much access to people. I think people these days have a lot harder time forming bonds, and the whole paradigm of how people talk to each other is different. These days, if like in my generation, if you saw somebody you wanted to meet, you would walk up to them and say hello. And if you did that today, you'd be like, who's this creeper? Get them out of here.
So true. You're always on the defensive because I think my parents at least grew up watching those like shows that, will play at like late at night that are like, this person got murdered and this person got decapitated. And my mom eats it up. And I'm like, how do you sleep at night? And that has made my parents so paranoid and very, very protective because I feel like in your generation, you guys were just kind of like, go free, come back before like the sun goes down. And it's like, my generation's like, I'm tracking you right now. Who are you with? Where are you going? What's happening? And it's just so much surveillance too. Yeah. Like it's definitely a different time.
And that literally was the rule in my family.
Which
was go out and you had a perimeter. It's like you couldn't go outside the 5 or 6 blocks for the apartment complex back then or the 5 or 6 blocks of the subdivision when we moved into the house. But other than that, it was just be home by dark.
Wow.
And usually you wanted to be home by dark because you've been running around outside and you were hungry and it was dinner time.
Well, I think that's another thing. I feel like kids aren't really playing outside nearly as much. I don't think that people are as active. Like the whole like touch grass thing. Yeah. Like when you're like, it's a meme basically of like, if you're acting so socially awkward, you should probably touch some grass because nature can help you out. But it's interesting that we're talking about marriage because that is one of our topics, actually. We are going to start talking about engagements because, fun fact, they happen a lot more often during the holidays. And Angela, when does it happen the most?
Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, 2 most popular days.
And why do you think people do that?
I'd say it's because family's around, having family there to, celebrate with you if they say yes.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Otherwise, it'd be pretty awkward.
Right? Yes. I think that's a very bold move of people to do, but I'm not going to judge. But there's also a very high, like, what is it called when people are engaged but then break it off? It's not called divorce. It's just breaking off an engagement.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of that going on.
Because we're lawyers and we can't talk about when everything goes right. We only talk about what happens when things go wrong. And then we show up as lawyers and we're like, and here we can talk to you about what happens when everything goes south. So.
Yes. And when things do go south, what happens, let's say, to the engagement ring, all the gifts that are supposed to happen for the wedding?
So interestingly enough, Texas follows what's called the conditional gift rule. And that means that whenever the donor gives a ring, it's conditional and it's on the promise of getting married, actually going through with the wedding. And if the donee chooses to not go through with the wedding, then the donor actually gets the ring back because the gift wasn't completed, so to speak.
Is that like if the person requests it back, or the person is just like maybe like super rich or something and it's just like, nah, you can take it, it has bad like juju on it?
It's if the person requests it back. Yes.
Okay, interesting. I never knew that. And then what did you mention anything about the gifts? Like what happens if that's all people had already paid for the gifts, it was already at the ceremony? I don't know.
Yeah, otherwise a gift is a gift, and not necessarily conditional. So it's specifically with engagement rings that there's that conditional gift rule. Interestingly enough, if the donor is the one to actually call the engagement off, then the donee gets to keep the ring.
Oh, like immediately.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So a little bit of legalese, of course. Donor and donee. Donor is the person who gives the gift of the ring, and donee is the person who receives the gift of the ring. Because in law, we always like to use OR for the one who gives and double E for the one who receives. So donor and donee is really no different than mortgagor and mortgagee, and a whole host of other things like that.
Grantor, grantee.
Grantor and grantee.
Wait, what are those? Oh, like the people granted
deeds, for example.
Oh, okay, interesting. And what is a deed?
Deeds how you convey land in Texas. There are many different types. But to get back to this, so if you're the donor and you break it off, but the reason you break it off is, for example, you discover that during the course of the engagement, your spouse is cheating on you. So you've got really good reasons to say, I don't want to marry this person anymore. Yeah. Then do you get the ring back? Or not?
You won't get the ring back. So courts don't look at why you called it off. If you called it off, then you called it off. It's kind of very black and white. So even though you might have had a really good reason to call it off, the courts won't look at that. You don't get the ring back.
So make sure you choose your spouses and partners very wisely, y'all.
Your prospective spouses. Yeah.
Yes.
So that would kind of lead to this advice of, why don't I make the other person call it off? So instead of me going to them and saying, I'm calling it off, I need to figure out some way to get them riled up emotionally. I need to figure out some way to get them angry and screaming, and then throw out something like, well, if that's how you feel, why don't you just call it off?
What?
Just make
That's
their life
crazy.
miserable.
Toxic advice from Sandy.
It sounds like It sounds like the plot to a bad rom-com.
No, that's hilarious though. Yeah.
We did think of this.
Okay.
And this was a rom-com idea in which a couple gets engaged. So it's a public proposal, like at Christmas, where everybody feels uncomfortable about saying no. But they both decide the day after Christmas, Boxing Day in Canada, where I'm from, that they don't want to get married, but they want the other one to call it off. And then we have a series of little scenarios and vignettes where they're each working as hard as they can to get the other person to call it off, and they're singularly unsuccessful. And then you get to the end of the movie, and after all these attempts to get the other person to call it off, they realize, we really ought to get married. We are more in love now than we were when we started this process.
That is an episode for a Hallmark movie for the holidays. You know what I mean? I would watch that for sure. Yeah.
That's wild. But on the aside from rings, where there's developed case law, you have issues of contract, where you go out and you hire the DJ, you hire the band, you hire the venue, you hire
all the staff,
hire all the staff. You get your wedding coordinator, you
the cake,
get the
flowers,
you get the cake. You hire the limos. And you're way down the road, and you signed a bunch of contracts.
Yeah.
And in contract law, by and large, whoever signs that contract, you are on the hook. For those third-party vendors, it's not an answer to say, I changed my mind. I don't need the flowers, don't need the cake, don't need the limo. They'll still have a claim under their contract for the profit that they would have made.
So there's never like an exception that if it is like called off, that they could get a percentage, but maybe not all of it?
If you write it in.
Okay.
Yes.
Write it in, people.
But the vendors who are in the holiday business, mostly are not thinking about, I want to write into this thing that if it's all called off, I don't get paid, but I want to get paid.
That makes sense, yeah.
But if you're getting these contracts signed and you're one of the people about to get married, that's something that you might consider. So although when you're sitting there and you're talking to the wedding coordinator you want to hire, and they pull out the contract and you suggest such a clause while your prospective spouse is sitting there, that itself is probably going to cause some conflict. What do you mean you need a clause about what if it gets called off?
It's kind of like a prenup situation. Yeah. Did that ever cause like an awkward conversation?
That's interesting because on the prenups, there is a way to address it.
Yeah, so on a prenup, you definitely have to make sure to get it in writing.
Right.
So if both parties agree that in the case that the wedding is called off, that one party is going to get the ring back, then that's how it'll go. But otherwise, if there's nothing in writing, then that's when like the conditional gift rule applies.
Oh, that's so interesting. And I know this to you guys probably sounds a little redundant. I lost my voice for now. I don't know why. I do try to look out for the beginners here. So what exactly is a prenup?
A prenup just is a contract that the parties would enter into actually before marriage that would just designate who gets what in the case of divorce.
That must be an awkward conversation. Or do you think people are okay with it?
I'm sure it's an awkward conversation.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
And in Texas, at least, there are so many technical requirements for a prenuptial agreement that nobody should attempt doing one without the assistance of a qualified family law lawyer. Because when you get to the divorce, one party or the other figures out that they'll come out better if that prenup is not enforced. And so one party or the other will be trying to figure out a way to bust the prenup. And the technical requirements under the Texas Family Code are very tight, and they really do need to be complied with if you're going to do a prenuptial agreement. So if you're going to do that, then by all means, hire a professional.
Do it right.
Yes.
And so prenups, they include like things like business assets, like what people already have as far as makeup of wealth, properties. What else is in a prenup?
Usually what you're addressing is confirming the property that belongs to each spouse prior to the marriage. So there's no dispute about that. And then you're wanting to take a look at assets that come in during the marriage, and if you want to attempt to address those. So typically on prenups, you have an imbalance in wealth between the parties, or you've got balanced wealth, but you've got parties who they're each independently wealthy and they each don't want the other person to attempt to walk away with the assets that they have.
Right.
So, unfortunately, when divorce rolls around, it's really sort of gloves off in many divorces, and everybody is after the assets and to see how much of the marital estate that they can obtain. So.
And for the contracts that are for those venues, right, the florist and all this other stuff, do you recommend to also have a lawyer for these things?
I don't think you need a lawyer for those. I think you just need to be aware that they're binding, that if you make a decision later on that you're going to
potentially regret.
If you're making a decision that you're going to potentially regret, and you need to pull out of the agreement to get married, that doesn't just make all of these contractual obligations go away. You still have to deal with the contractual obligations, and what happens if the wedding doesn't take place.
Yeah.
So,
I guess it's not like the movies where you just like dramatically like walk off of like the church steps and everything. I didn't realize how much like you're kind of in that mud.
The aftermath.
Yeah. But anyways, that was a little bit about engagements because that's pretty popular. And unfortunately, being negative again, another thing that unfortunately happens a lot during the holidays is there's a lot of like motor vehicle accidents. There's a lot of crashes and accidents. So we kind of want to start getting into that.
Yeah, and I was looking into why that is. I was Googling why there's so many motor vehicle accidents during the holidays, and I was surprised at what I got back. So, and it makes sense. Everyone's stressed out. There's a lot of holiday stress.
Yeah.
Sometimes bad weather. And of course, a lot of drinking and driving.
Yeah, because that's what most people, I think of, just like the partying and all of the substance abuse that happens. But I never thought of like stress and probably maybe like sleep deprivation. I don't know.
Yeah. Being tired. There's a lot of nighttime driving too.
Yeah. I can only imagine. And so what is the rate? What is like, do you have any numbers on the extent of how bad it is?
Not so fun fact. Texas actually leads the nation in motor vehicle fatalities and
Really?
Wrong way deaths. Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Because I thought we had like
Drinking and
Dallas.
driving.
Oh, drinking and driving.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. Okay, state, we got to work on that. And
we're also a state that has thousands of miles of rural highway.
yes.
Where people are driving for long periods of time over long distance on roads that are not built to the same standards as interstate highways. And that causes them sometimes to become less attentive or causes them to become sleepy. And there's less of room for error in driving on those roads, which is why we get, like we just had this week, on a county southwest of Dallas, 6 people killed on a rural highway in an accident. Usually the worst accidents tend to be the head-on collisions, which are either somebody driving the wrong way, and those tend to be the intoxicated people.
Right.
Get on the highway going the wrong way and wind up driving into somebody and killing most of the people usually.
Yeah.
And then the other is where they get tired or they veer off. One of the effects of being intoxicated and driving at night is that you have a tendency to drive towards lights as opposed to darkness.
I didn't know that.
And so if you're out on a highway and you see an oncoming light, if you're impaired, you will almost reflexively start steering towards that light.
Why does that happen?
It's
just human nature?
Human nature, yeah.
Wow, that is bizarre. And I was also thinking about those rural highways with all that like wildlife that you probably wouldn't see on like just a regular highway. And I know like a deer has almost hit my car. Have you guys ever experienced accidents yourself? I mean, we work on motor vehicle accidents. You guys are probably the experts when it happens.
Yeah, wildlife is much more dangerous than people think it is.
Yeah.
And the reason is that for most cars, if you run into a deer, you wind up submarining the deer, and the deer winds up going into the windshield. So there's a bad impact from taking hundreds of pounds of a deer and having it come through the windshield at 50 or 60 miles per hour. And there's very little deer are also very fast. So usually the bad deer accidents are the ones where you just have no opportunity. You're just driving down the highway and the deer decides to bolt in front of you. And almost before you realize it's there, you wind up hitting it.
Yeah, nothing to do.
In no time.
Yeah, and then the other issue that we have is stray cattle that wander out on the highways.
Yeah.
And they're just heavy. They're over 1,000 pounds.
Do the animals usually die on impact?
Yes.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, they would be kind of like immortal if they did. Oh, gosh.
Although in Dallas last week, this is a bad story, we did have a completely impaired driver who ran into a homeless person. The body goes through the windshield and winds up under the floorboard. The driver drives on for another 40 miles.
What?
And then parks at a fast food place.
Does he eat anything?
No, he goes in asking if they've got a charger so he can charge his phone. And then he goes back out to his car, and then somebody calls the police, who come out and they're like,
the audacity. Oh my goodness.
Oh.
yeah, it's impaired driving under the influence of alcohol, driving under the influence of drugs is a common reason for accidents.
You know, and I didn't realize that DUIs aren't just like, I don't know, like you doing weed or drinking alcohol. It's like NyQuil or something. If you're too much under the influence of a medication, that also counts. I didn't know that myself.
Be prescribed medication.
Oh, yeah. Really? Oh, because like when you get that prescription, they probably advise you not to drive.
Yeah, there's warnings on the bottle.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you get the prescription bottle and they've got the sticker that says, "Do not operate heavy machinery after taking."
Yeah,
oh, okay. Fair,
Yeah.
fair. Well, one day maybe I'll be taking a prescription like that and I'll know. But until then, I'll just ask you guys. But, you know, not maybe for all of those really severe accidents, but what if you just have kind of like a little fender bender? Is that what that's called?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, nice. And what do you do then? Like, what are the steps? Because I remember, I still haven't really gotten into an accident. And so I would like to, right? Good. Especially with all the driving that I do. But yeah, what are kind of like the basic steps that you should take?
The basic step, number one, is don't panic just because you've been in an accident.
Right.
Some people are stressed out and they get into an accident, and either they panic or they believe that it's the fault of the other person, and their anger level goes up, and they get out and they start screaming at the other person, and
that does nothing.
It doesn't accomplish anything.
Right.
What you want is, and Texas law requires that you if you're on most highways, you need to, and it's a fender bender, you need to move the vehicle to the side of the highway. And then with the other involved driver or drivers, you need to make your driver's license available, and you need to make your proof of insurance available. And that's about it. You know, if it's a serious accident, call the police so the police can do a police report. But stay calm. Take photographs of the damage to your vehicle, take photographs of the damage to the other vehicle, and take photographs of the scene of the accident.
I remember, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay. I remember because between you guys and me, I do have a spreadsheet with like Sandy's advice that I just quickly I will not remember that tomorrow. Let me make sure I get that on file. And so I just put it in a little spreadsheet. And I remember one of the things was that there's a lot of uninsured drivers in Texas. And so what is your recommendation going into the roads, knowing that there's a lot of uninsured drivers?
Yeah, Texas has an uninsured driver rate of over 20%.
Wow.
There are a lot of people who drive without liability insurance on Texas roads.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that drive without driver's licenses on Texas roads. So when you buy your own personal auto policy, one of the options that you have that they're required to offer to you is to purchase what's called uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. What that does is protect you against the risk of being in an accident that was caused by a driver who does not have insurance or has insurance that is an amount that is too small to cover all the damage that you sustain.
Yeah.
And often people go and they shop for their auto insurance, and most thought that they give to their auto insurance is simply, I want to get the cheapest rate that I can possibly get. So they wind up buying minimum limits policies, which don't cover a whole lot in Texas in terms of liability. And the agents are always helpfully saying, and you can cut a few dollars off the premium if you'll sign this piece of paper passing on the uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. People do that all the time.
Yeah.
And for many people, it comes back to haunt them. You really do want to have in Texas uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. And sometimes that's the biggest part of the claim in terms of your ability to get compensated if you're in a severe accident.
Right.
You know, the other side may have a $30,000 liability policy. well, $30,000 of liability policy can buy you the ambulance, some ER treatment, a little bit of time being in the hospital, and maybe a surgery. And for anything that's long-term, anything that's more disabling, that minimum limits is not going to protect you.
Yeah. And I have a question for both of you. What are those like driving myths out there that's like when people feel very entitled, they're like, no, it was this person's fault or it was this person's fault. What are things that people tend to do that they don't even realize they probably shouldn't be doing on the road? Do you guys have any of that?
I have one that Sandy taught me. I always thought that when someone is making a left turn at an intersection that's not protected and gets T-boned by the other driver, I always assumed that the person that made the left turn is automatically at fault and did not have the right of way. But something that I learned, something Sandy taught me, is that if that driver that's making a left turn is already in the intersection when the other car impacts with that car, then they have the right of way because they were already in the intersection. Just because they didn't have like a protected arrow doesn't mean that the other car can come plowing through the intersection and that they automatically have the right of way. So that's something interesting that not a lot of people realize, actually.
Yeah, and I had a friend. That's very interesting because now I feel a little bit better. But what if, like, let's say my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you are behind a car and let's say that they just suddenly stop, right? Regardless of why they stopped and you hit them, you're the one liable. Is that kind of a clean slate? You can say that, or are there exceptions?
There are exceptions. It depends on the circumstances. If you are in obvious stop and go traffic and the person in front of you brakes and you just run into them because you're checking your text messages or changing the music that you're listening to, then it's your fault most of the time.
Right.
If you're driving along and everything's clear and there's nothing on the roadway, and the person in front of you decides for whatever reason to absolutely slam their brakes on.
Like brake checking or something?
Yeah, almost like brake checking. And you hit them, then it may actually be their fault when they suddenly and unexpectedly braked for no apparent reason, when there was nothing on the roadway. There wasn't traffic conditions, weather conditions, no deer in the roadway, no tire treads in their way. So it's case-by-case determination as to fault. Now, the insurance companies pretty much are like, oh, yeah, if you hit somebody from behind, then it's your fault. Just like the insurance companies are generally like, well, you were making the left turn and you got hit, and it's your fault. And
it's always your fault with the insurance companies.
Right. It's not all. It's just not always. It's you always have to look at the actual circumstances of what's going on the roadway. And with traffic. So
how do you prove that stuff? Do you need hard evidence? Do you recommend people to have like a dash cam on, or how do you actually go about that?
A dash cam is always useful.
Do y'all have dash cams?
No. I should.
I was thinking about getting one. Yeah.
Dash cams are interesting because they tend to be very confirmatory one way or the other in accidents. We've got cases where we received dash cam video in the course of discovery, where we realized, oh yeah, our client really was at fault. We're not going to win in this case. And there's other times we received dash cam video and it like confirms everything the client said and blows out the defenses on the other side. So it's useful to have when you can have it. Some of it is inconclusive, and in terms of what you see, sometimes it's difficult. Not so much dash cam video as video taken from surrounding business establishments. Often if we get a case very early, we may do a survey of surrounding businesses to see if their security cameras picked up anything. The police do that fairly frequently, and we've got cases in which we have received video from businesses which has been useful. A lot of the problem with the video is trying to get everything that's going on. So
Right.
you're getting one point of view on that video. You may not necessarily be getting what were the colors of the lights, when did they change, what were the lights doing on the other side, because sometimes signal lights malfunction, and you don't pick up on dash cam things that are happening to the side of either vehicle. So it's not a be all and end all to have dash cam video, but it can be enormously useful in either prosecuting or defending motor vehicle accident cases.
And you had mentioned the police. Do you always / should like call the police when you get an accident?
It depends on the jurisdiction that you are in, and it depends on the severity of the injury. There are major metro areas now where if it's a fender bender, they don't want you to call them out to the scene. And some in Texas where they won't respond to the scene if you tell them it was just a fender bender. They'll tell you call in and do an online report after the accident, so you'll have your police report on file. Which you always want, because one way or another you want there to be a police report, because the insurance companies are always looking for that. And if you have a hit and run driver, which occurs with some frequency in Texas, you want to have done the police report. The difficulty with hit and run cases is the insurance companies at times can be very skeptical as to whether the accident even happened. So
what?
Yeah, you call them up and you say, I got sideswiped and the other car drove off. And they're like, so the other car just disappeared. So all we really have is your word that this happened with some other
How do I
vehicle.
not know you didn't just scratch your own car?
Yeah. Or turn into something yourself and then blame somebody in a hit and run. So it's useful to have that. And hit and runs come in two types. It could hit and run where the other vehicle drives off, and hit and run where the driver of the other vehicle hops out of the vehicle and runs away. So
oh my goodness.
Those happen.
That's so funny. And my last question for you guys is my last question for you guys is, if you had advice for your own family, whether it's your daughter, your partner, whatever the case is, on that holiday season, on those Christmas or New Year's, whatever the case may be, what is that advice that you would give to them?
That'd probably be, if you're involved in any kind of accident, always seek the advice of a lawyer.
And maybe just don't drive on the road that day if you can avoid it.
If it can be avoided.
The insurance companies have a whole process that they follow in terms of checking the box on things that they are going to do in the investigation of the case. And it includes, they want to get whatever photographs you have. They want to get whatever videos. They're going to, in property damage, they're going to get their own evaluations of cost of repair. If the vehicle's totaled, they get their own evaluation of the market value of the vehicle. And they'll also, typically early on, they want a recorded statement. And if you're thinking about making a claim or the possibility of bringing a lawsuit over a motor vehicle accident, don't glibly get on the phone and have a recorded statement with the insurance company without the assistance of a lawyer in any statement that you give. And frankly, most lawyers, once you hire them, are like, don't talk to the insurance company. So,
fair, very fair.
And there's one other area I almost forgot about on dash cams, and this deals with commercial trucks, which are the in-cab cameras, because a number of trucking companies now have in-cab cameras. So there's a camera mounted in the cab, and the role of that camera is not to record the highway or the traffic conditions. It's focused on the driver and on what the driver is doing.
But it's, which way is it facing?
Towards the driver.
Oh, that's not helpful.
No, it is.
It is?
Can be.
Yeah, it can.
How? Oh, like to understand the maneuvers they were making and the influence that they were under?
You can see if they're staring at their cell phone. You can see if they're looking away. There's all sorts of things that you can pick up on the the in-cab cameras. And if you got a serious accident involving commercial truck, then you want to do everything you can to get any existing in-cab video to show what that driver was doing. Because commercial trucks, particularly large ones, are extraordinarily dangerous. You've got about 80,000 pounds on a fully loaded 18-wheeler. It may be moving 60, 70, 75 miles per hour, hopefully not more than that.
Right.
So they just dwarf most people's SUVs and compact cars or mid-sized cars on the road. And so when you do have an accident with a fully loaded 18-wheeler and a normal SUV, they're remarkably damaging. That's an area where you definitely want to make sure that you have a vehicle for yourself that has a decent safety rating. So.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like I'm learning just as y'all are learning, so we're in this together. But, we don't want to end on a negative note, right? We're just trying to keep you guys informed. But we do want to talk about the new year, because new year brings a lot of hope, I think. And we had a pretty good past year. Our firm got to grow. I was a part of that growth, so I feel very honored to be a part of that. But can we talk about our top 10 accomplishments this year?
Oh, our top 10.
So the first one, we did successfully implement a new case management system, CasePeer, that works very well. We're fully transitioned, and it's keeping us very organized.
So helpful. I love being able to message you guys directly. That's been super helpful. The way that it's organized is very modern looking. This is actually just a promotion for CasePeer right now. But it has been really great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been extremely useful in getting everything organized and to keeping the docket that we have running reasonably well. So
yeah, because what has that transition been? I think you've been able to see going from fully paper to paperless, basically. We're not fully paperless, right? You like to always keep your records, but what has that been like?
We were paperless long before many other firms were paperless. We have been making an effort to run a paperless office since 2009.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
yes,
for real.
And during the pandemic, it was great because we had access to everything. But what was missing in the paperless implementation that we had done is that we had the digital documents, we had the email, we had digital calendars, we had all of that. But we didn't have the overlay structure of the case management system to track tasks and to track deadlines in cases. And so we would have that, we would mark them on the calendar, and you could always search the calendar and pull up something, but the case management system that we use allows us to bring all of that together and has made it less work, certainly for us, in communicating with clients when documents come in their cases. So that I think this year was one of the largest accomplishments that we had. But we also moved the Houston office.
Yeah, we did.
That's huge.
We didn't necessarily want to. We had to. They were turning the prior office into apartments. So we ended up moving to a new location in the Heights in Houston.
Yes, that's very exciting. I'm very excited to see it. I'm in the Dallas office, if you guys ever find me. But I haven't seen the Houston office, but it seems really nice. So I'm excited for that. And then what else? What has been going on this year?
Well, when you do visit, you'll get to meet our furry friends.
What?
It's a pet-friendly office. And my Siberian Husky comes to work with me every day.
I love
Don't wear black.
Oh, because then fur everywhere. No, I have a dog. His name's Paco, and I totally understand that, though. And then how else has everything else been going?
Reasonably well. Yeah. We doubled up on the number of case managers that we have, which has accelerated the timeliness of responding to potential clients and to responding to inquiries from existing clients. Yeah. So that's been good. A decent thing.
Yeah, communication's key.
Not in this podcast, but in the next podcast, we'll talk about we've got another attorney who's coming on as of February 1, a coming attraction. And he'll be with us as of February 1, and we'll talk more about him on the next podcast. With any luck, we may have him on. We may get to test the remote interview capability.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, excellent.
And then finally, I think one of the great accomplishments that we had this year was hiring you for
Thank you.
Work in the advertising work, the social media work, the podcasting work. Everything that keeps you working when you clock in at 2:00 in the morning and clock out at 6:00 in the morning.
Oh my God. I can explain. I'm a student and my schedule has just been crazy, but I have really loved just getting to explore because like Sandy has given me a lot of responsibility, a lot of freedom with our social media and a lot of trust. So I do appreciate that. And my background has been in like politics and in PR work. So the legal work has been new to me, but I'm so happy I got to translate some of those skills into this work because it's been really gratifying for me. Mm-hmm.
So our final holiday safety message, particularly heading into New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Go Texas. That don't get so drunk that you shouldn't be driving. Don't drive as an impaired driver. Have somebody else drive or get an Uber, get a Lyft.
Designated driver.
Yeah.
Designated driver, yes.
Because otherwise, it's just not worth it. The risk to other people from your misconception of your ability to drive is enormous.
Right.
And if you get stopped and arrested by the police for driving under the influence, be it drugs or alcohol, it's expensive. I mean, we don't do criminal work. We got a list of things that we don't do. We don't do criminal, and we don't do immigration. We don't do bankruptcy.
Yes.
But the DUI is an enormous expense and very time consuming, particularly if you can avoid it by spending some money on an Uber, a Lyft, a taxi.
Yeah.
Back.
Do those exist still?
They still exist.
I haven't seen one.
Right.
I run across them every once in a while, but everybody these days seems to use the ride-sharing apps.
Lyft, Uber,
and they've just dominated the field. It's a whole other discussion about the safety issues involved in Uber and Lyft, about the insurance issues, the bonding issues, the driver background checks. That's just a whole other topic because there are differences in going from a very heavily regulated public taxi business over to rideshare apps. So,
did taxis have to be like licensed? I imagine, yeah. And Ubers, I mean, they have a license, but
it's local. It used to mostly be local regulation. Now in Texas, it's generally statewide regulation of Uber and Lyft. And there's always this tension about how much of a background check do you need? How much insurance do you need to have out there?
Right.
And I use them all the time in getting around. And most of the drivers are really good. Every so often you get one where you're just like, wow, this is great.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I did have one in Houston a couple of weeks ago. The car pulls up and the entire driver's side is completely bashed in.
Oh, wow.
Looked like from a recent accident. I was like, yeah, so I get in and
you're like, that makes me feel great.
And I'm like, oh, so what happened with the car? And all I get is kind of just kind of a grunt. And I'm like, okay.
That makes me feel even better.
Yeah, I got where I was going safely.
Okay, good. That's the important thing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the message. Thank you so much for listening. We truly do appreciate it. Please make sure to listen to us wherever you get your podcast. Remember, this is also a video podcast, so you can actually check us out on YouTube. And any other closing remarks?
Happy New Year's, everyone.
Happy holidays.